Welcome to Webster Now with your host, Garrett Wagner.
Something's happening in Webster. And no. I don't mean your cousin's political hot takes at the fake city table. Thank God. I mean something actually real and exciting. It was a shift, a flicker, a small vote whisper that said, hey, maybe things don't have to be the way they've always been.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
10 votes as of today, with absentee ballots still being counted as we speak. Like, that's one family dinner. That's a dodgeball team with subs. That's in between business as usual and something really new. But this week wasn't about close calls and the changing weather, right? It was about you, your voice, your vote. And whether you never use it or use it as often as possible, right? Every time you show up, you let your voice be heard. Because in this episode, we want to talk about what comes after the election signs come down. Which, right, we're all happy. They're finally coming down. We enjoy them. Because if you care about green space, housing, holidays, taxes, streets, whatever, or you just want to be ignored, then you're in the right place. Because what? This is your town, and this is your voice, and this is Webster Now. So let's break down the election just happened locally, right? The Republicans thought as always they had it, right? Same script. Same sign, right? Just a few name changes. You go by too quick, can't even tell. Same everything. They ran the same playbook they've used for years in Webster, because why not? It worked. You don't change what worked. They added a little bit more in there about open space, but otherwise, same as always, except, shocker, this time it didn't. And while Republicans were running the whole game, something else is happening, right? Something unexpected that we've never seen in Webster. The Republican voters didn't show up as they always have. Those steady Republican voters, they didn't show up this year, right? Not the way they usually do. Not even close. The driver behind that change, from what we can tell, was largely driven by the national political trend and voters looking to voice their displeasure, right? The local candidates, a lot of them, good candidates, were just caught up in those frustrations. Meanwhile, the Webster Democrats, well, they were focused on one race, the town justice race. Always in one basket, pushing Brittany like she's about to drop a new album. And here's the twist. That didn't work either. Why? Local justice races are a little unique, right? Those positions are typically not seen as political, right? As they really shouldn't be. Here in New York, while you don't need to be a lawyer to be a judge or a judge to be a judge, most voters, when given the option, prefer a judge be a lawyer, right? For someone who wants to get involved. And that's what we saw here, right? A long-standing judge and lawyer running against a new candidate with neither of those qualifications. So despite local support, it didn't register with voters, and that's kind of the shift we saw in the voter turnout, right? Change. Not ideological, not perfect, not always clearly defined, just different. And that is what moved voters. Not a vision, not a vibe, a sense that the old rhythm wasn't working and maybe anything will be better. Because come on, for a town supervisor in Webster, we turned down probably the most politically experienced town supervisor we've probably ever seen the ballot. Webster royalty, right? As we like to refer to him as, right? And it wasn't just us. We saw it in Greece, Penfield, Rush. And I've heard from people in the community the shock they felt on both sides, right? And you felt it here in Webster, even if the results weren't all just in one direction. Because this isn't about one party winning or losing. It's about what's something shifting under the surface. And what makes this moment so important is you didn't just vote, right? You disrupted a system that assumed you wouldn't. Right? You proved that sitting back and recycling the same campaign slogans and signs didn't cut it anymore. But here's the part no one wants to hear, right? Change doesn't come gift wrapped, right? It doesn't arrive with a bow. It shows up messy, incomplete, and full of questions, right? And if you want it to mean something, you got to stay involved after you vote. I know that's one of the hardest parts of democracy, right? Because the question now isn't what happened. It's what's going to happen next here in Webster. What do we do with a close race, a shifting board? Do we build something better or wait for a surprise? Do we fall apart? So let's talk about what's coming next. Spoiler, the next big vote isn't who's on the ballot. It's the future of our town, right? Let's talk about the Holt Road lumberyard, as this illustrates this point clearly and is happening right now for our eyes. That site, you just saw the picture. The old Webster lumberyard. For some of us, like myself, we just remember empty buildings. Or those recently, you just remember a chunk of old commercial land next to the Hoosick Trail. on Holt Road, right? Trees, open space, potential. But if developers get their way, it can become apartments, lots of them, with a kind of density that could reshape traffic, schools, and oh yeah, our open spaces. Now, this property has been for sale for many years, and a couple different plans for housing, apartments, shopping centers, and more have come forward, but not moved. Past the planning phase. Well, the project is back and was at the last town board meeting, right? Just days after the election, with everyone's favorite three-letter acronym, a PDD. The PDD is a Planned Development District, okay? It allows developers to build on wetlands through a more flexible zoning process, right? Because you want to get around those pesky little things like trees and wetlands. So they created a PDD to help them out. Often when a town board approves a PDD, the planning and zoning boards are more willing to grant variances and concessions in the name of development, right? And it's game over for open space, wetlands, green space, and more. Our outgoing town supervisor, armed with facts, as he says, and trust the process, wanted to move the PDD along so the process could run, right? And despite the unexpected election results, he was going to be slowed down. And some residents showed up days of the election and said, not so fast. The theme was, we're not anti-growth and anti-process, we're pro-accountability. So given the real drama behind the scenes at the public meeting, let's break down for you what happened. As most of you, right, have other things to do on Thursday evening. They watch local board meetings live on YouTube. So first up, a special once-in-a-lifetime appearance by Peter Elder. Yes, that Peter Elder. He got to speak. And for those of you who don't know who he is, Peter, we thank you for his service, formerly served as a mayor of the village of Webster, right? He's currently the Republican commissioner for the Monroe County Board of Elections. By nature of his job, he tends to stay quiet, right? He doesn't wade into town politics with public comments at board meetings. But this time, he did.
I do want to encourage you to consider moving the date to December 18th. I think that it is a better look for the board and a better look for the process. I don't think those 2 weeks or so will make much difference in any sort of the application or the applicant. And I also think that it would allow more time for the public to interact with the Open Space Committee and other interested residents prior to the public hearing. It's great that you have the comprehensive plan moving along. I think it's wonderful, but I also think that in context, this is a rezoning within the context of considering a comprehensive plan, which is a little unusual, right? So if you think about it long enough, the comprehensive plan itself is the guideline for different zones, different zoning that might occur once it's implemented. So it does bear some additional time to look at a project like this while the comprehensive plan is being considered.
And that's what makes this unique. It's not normal. It's not routine. And he wasn't alone. Diana Davis, chair of the Webster Open Space Committee, also spoke up, right, about what kind of town we're building, what we're protecting, and what we're giving away. Because if we want to protect our green space, follow the town codes, the leverage is before the PDD approval, not after.
My nervousness about this is that, it's just the first step down a road, which is by no means the only way of achieving the developer's aims or what is best for this property. Having only just seen the modified plan, the Webster Open Space Committee, we're going to be meeting with them to talk further. I'm concerned that any issuance of a public hearing date, particularly if we issue it for December 4th, does leave open the slim possibility of determining a PDD vote prior to the incoming board in January. If, as Tom said, you're mindful of the ethics surrounding that and the fact that that's not maybe necessarily, the most ideal course of action, I see no reason why not just modify the resolution to set the public hearing for December 18th. That gives us time to meet with Jerry, the public 2 more weeks to see these modified plans, to consider a potential alternative. I did, just seek legal advice on whether or not the town board was actually obligated to set the public hearing at this time, or whether it would be within its remit. And, and I'm sure Jerry understands the timing here is pretty sensitive, whether it would be within its remit to either table the resolution or, as I'm saying, just modify it so that the public hearing is 2 weeks subsequent to that. ensuring that a vote would not take place before the incoming board. And honestly, you know, it's by no means guaranteed or even biased against it that the incoming board would be biased against such a consideration. I just think personally, ethically speaking, it's better to let that incoming board determine this.
So after some rounding speeches, let's hear what our town board members had to say about this firsthand. You know, they often just kind of vote yes or no. So this time we got a little more background. So we're going to share it with all of you. Once again, you probably weren't watching, so let's see what they had to say.
I will also say that I have no intention on bringing this to a vote after the public hearing before the first of the year. And we've got that on tape. I can't imagine that we would do that. So I'm just a little concerned with delaying that it wouldn't give everyone the opportunity to come in and speak. And we're not looking at scheduling it until December 4th. That's a full month away for the Open Space Committee and other people to weigh in and to meet with Jerry. So just a counterpoint to that 18th. I'm not on this board for much longer, and I think it's only the right thing to do to leave that to the board who will be coming in to make that vote on whether this moves forward to the planning board.
I'm going to just go with what's on here. I make a motion to set a public hearing for Thursday, December 4th at 7:30 p.m. to consider the establishment of a Progressive Development District, PDD, at 799 Holt Road, the former lumberyard site, tax ID number 079.08-1-13.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
The only reason I'm voting yes is because of legal counsel that we are obligated by law to schedule this public hearing. I adamantly disagree with scheduling it for December 4th, but I will oppose harshly any vote on this PDD prior to the new board being seated. That being said, my vote is yes.
Councilwoman Nguyen.
At this time, I will be voting no, for the reason is that we are in the process of updating the town comprehensive plan, and we should have a moratorium on the new development until the residents have a chance to view the final comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, Jerry, but that's my vote.
I'm voting yes. I agree with Councilman Cahill and Councilwoman Cataldi that the public hearing on the 4th is important. December 18th could be a difficult time for the community to come in. I, too, strongly agree that taking action on this, this project beyond a public hearing in 2025 is not the right thing to do.
What made all those comments unique is we rarely get this level of discussion, right? And it was only magnified by the election results. So that asks us, where do we go from here, right? On the future of the Holt Road lumberyard. Well, on December 4th, there's a public hearing, right? And this is our shot as a community to step up, whether you're for or you're against it, right? You want more housing, more green space, more apartments, or just more say, this is what you get. Because here's the truth. The developers, they have attorneys, consultants, renderings. The system works for them to build, to cut trees down, to put more stuff in Webster, right? It doesn't work for the residents. All you have is your voice. And when you use it, especially right now in this time of transition, it really counts. Because you flip the expectation at the ballot box. And now it's your turn to flip the script to town hall and use your voice for the kind of Webster you want to see. Right? Let's decide that together.
Did I do that?
Now, in case you think all this talk about following the process and planning is theoretical, we had a couple major whoops on two recent projects that clear-cut large parts of Webster woodlands, right? Last week, we talked about this project on Publishers Parkway between Willink Middle School and 104. It went through the process, approved by the planning board, and moving forward, but whoopsies, 4 acres, clear cut, no approval, no explanation. You can see from the pictures, it's not a small parcel of land. So they cut down 4 acres more than they were permitted for and allowed to. And now the town needs to take action to remedy the situation, right? Of course, it's hard to remedy cutting down mature trees, but something hopefully will be done. And then I visited the bird sanctuary spot next to it being built for those 7 houses. One where the trees were literally marked not to be touched. And a vegetative buffer was promised in the plan with residents behind the project on that end of the street. Oh, and guess what? All those trees kind of fell down anyways. And I'm pretty sure my vision isn't as bad as I don't see any buffer between the cul-de-sac. So yeah, this is real. This is what happens. Sadly, the process is far from perfect. Because sometimes even if we trust the process, things still go wrong, right? And they're not easily fixed. It's not like patching a hole in a wall, quick and easy. And the town has a couple of options for recourse in these situations it can take, but so far hasn't yet acted. Now it's still getting a lot of calls from you residents. So hey, if you're not happy with this, keep them coming. Because it's not a good whoopsies. Moving on for some whoopsies to give you thanks, right? Thanksgiving in Webster. In our last episode, we talked about the turkey trot and the amazing efforts to help feed those in need some extra help. Today, we want to pivot from that and have some fun. So we thought, hey, why not? A little Thanksgiving trivia so you can impress your family while avoiding politics at the dinner table. Turkeys can see in color. So yes, they saw your outfit and they judged it. The first Thanksgiving had no pie, no mashed potatoes, no pumpkin spice, anything. It was basically just a medieval potluck with questionable seafood. Bummer. The average Thanksgiving dinner clocks in at 3,000 calories. So yes, running the turkey trot does kind of help balance that out a little bit. Another fun fact about turkeys, they can blush, believe it or not. Which is what I do too if you saw my high school turkey trot photos. Classy. Ooh, and in Minnesota, it's illegal to cross state lines with a duck on your head. All right, I know that's not Thanksgiving related, but hey, you're welcome for that little side piece of trivia. So Webster, as we head towards the end of the year, your ballots have been cast, right? The turkey's almost in the oven. And that next big vote in Webster, it's not in a booth, it's at the microphone. Whether it's about the Holt Road Lumberyard project, a 4-acre mistake, the Xerox Solar project, or the way we treat each other during the holidays, one thing is clear, right? Change doesn't happen to towns like ours. It's made by the people who show up. I know we say that a lot, right? Show up. But let's break it down a little bit, because civic engagement isn't just voting. It's carrying out loud. It's paying attention when no one else is watching. It's sending an email, asking a question, showing up at a meeting. Sometimes it's just listening. And you showed up to vote, and that mattered so much. It signaled the start of a change. And now you're going to be asked to show up again and again, because this community belongs to us. So wherever you are this week, around a big family table, flying solo, right? Or jogging the cold dressed like poultry, know this, right? You're part of something, a community, a town that's changing, right? A story that's still being written, a brighter, intentional future that's unfolding in front of us. Because if we keep showing up, if we keep listening, with honesty, with hope, with lasagna when necessary, right, we can build a Webster we're all proud to call home. And if this episode moved you even just a little bit, do us a favor. Like it, comment, share it with someone else in Webster. Because your voice is powerful, but your reach, that's how movements continue to grow. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone in Webster. Let's keep moving forward together, right? As always, every step we take is a step towards a better Webster.
You've been watching Webster Now with Garrett Wagner. Join us next time for more local news and updates.